This girl transmigrated and became the wealthy madam of countless reaches. Not only is she stunningly beautiful, but she also has an adorable son. Most importantly, her unfortunate husband passed away long ago. Isn't this exactly what winning looks like? The only pity is that the original owner was abusive to children. After arriving in this world, Lula is determined to make up her son Hyla's love, because in the original story, once her son grows up, he takes revenge. And she was the mother who always mistreated the main guy. In this life, Lula also suffered abuse from a drunk father, so she knows exactly how much damage family trauma and violence can cause to a child, and she is determined to heal her son's emotional wounds. After accepting reality, Lula immediately asked where the maid was keeping her son. Then she was told Hila had fallen ill and asked if she wanted to handle it the same way as before. Lula was suspicious and asked how it was handled before. The maid recounted what the original owner had ordered. Her order was to lock the door and not let the kid out until he recovered. Lula could not believe the original owner treated a child so cruelly. She immediately ordered the maid to lead her to Hila's room. As soon as the door opened, she saw a frail, lonely figure lying on the bed. He did not even have a proper blanket. Hila did not expect his mother to come at this moment. The boy even thought Lula had come to scold him again. Hila nervously explained he did not mean to fall ill. After apologizing, he insisted he was not in any pain. He promised not to trouble his mother anymore. This image struck deeply into Lula's heart. Reading the story, she could feel Hila as suffering as if living in hell, but seeing it all in front of her, Lula still could not accept it. She asked the maid why the boy was so weak. Lula was shocked to learn Hila had not eaten anything for days. She immediately ordered the maid to prepare food. Seeing his mother approach, Hila was terrified. Lula reached out and touched the boy's burning hot body. Seeing how bad things were, she reached out to gently pat Hila's head unexpectedly. Hila panicked, crying and apologizing. He kept saying he would not cause any more trouble for her. Lula could only hold him gently, facing the boy's endless apologies. She gave a firm command. From today on, no more saying sorry. A sick child absolutely should not be apologizing. At times like this, rest is what is needed, not apologies. After saying that, Lula looked around the room. The place was filthy and damp, yet no one had cleaned it. Even the water the boy drank was blackened. At that moment, the maid brought food for Hila. It was just some leftovers and scraps of soup. Then Lula suddenly remembered a detail from the original story. The maid who served the original owner was the one who directly abused Hila. Since the boy was neglected, Lula angrily swatted the plate of food away. She ordered the maid to bring food that he could actually eat. Then Lula began to discipline the maid herself, standing up for Hila. By then, the maid was exhausted from the scolding. Lula focused on feeding Hila spoonful by spoonful. She knew the boy's heart was guarded by a wall of sharp thorns. To him, his mother was the source of all his pain. He needed someone to show him the right path. In the original story, lazy-ass formula was the #1 choice. Hila just needed to live with him for life to get better. The only thing she could do was stay away from Hila's life. Meanwhile, the maid, dismissed by Lula to get medicine, had not realized her mistress had changed. She cruelly thought this was just a psychological manipulation game. Once the boy was deeply asleep, the maiden would heartlessly push him away. She even believed she would be the one to trample on Hila in the end. But after settling everything, Lula coldly ordered her out of the mansion. Seeing the maid refuse to leave obediently, Lula took off her earring and tossed it into the maid's hand. Then, with a dark expression, she said, "Do you want to be fired for messing with your master's things? Or maybe you will just pack up and leave quietly." The maid, startled by Lula's sudden change, quickly turned tail and fled. After dealing with the maid, Lula hugged Hila and headed back to her room. Then, she made a firm decision to make Hila happy every single day from now on. The maid refused to leave obediently, so Lula took off her earring and dropped it into the maid's hand. With a grim look, she said, "Do you want to get kicked out for mixing up your master's stuff? Or will you just pack your bags and leave like a good girl?" The maid, scared by Lula's sudden shift, hurriedly ran off. Once the maid was handled, Lula grabbed Hila and returned to her room. Then, she vowed that from now on, she would make Hila truly happy every day. After settling things for Hila, she called the head maid over. She ordered her to get rid of the maid who messed with Hila's stuff. Lula was not going to let anyone bully Hila so easily. She did not forget to tell the head maid to spread the word to everyone in the mansion. From today on, anyone who dares to bully Hila won't be let off easily. The next morning, as soon as it was light out, Lula set off for Duke Lashia's mansion. The head maid was worried showing up unannounced like this was risky. After all, the Duke was known to be cold and heartless. The women around him were rumored to be miserable. He even had a bad reputation in high society. Though Lula walked in confidently, she was mentally prepared to be rejected. But if he was going to be Hila's godfather, she would swallow her pride and meet him no matter what. Soon enough, Lula was brought to the Duke's mansion. The Duke's steward approached and asked if she had an appointment. Lula boldly told him she was there to see the Duke very quickly. Lula was escorted inside the Duke's mansion. The steward asked again if she had an appointment. Lula struck a lethal blow with her stunning beauty. The steward was a bit surprised her looks really worked like a charm. He casually said she had an appointment, and the steward believed her. He was convinced that someone as angelic as her would not lie. The steward took Lula to meet the legendary Duke Lachius. On the way, Lula was still ready for rejection, but surprisingly, she got in without any trouble. Once she saw the Duke's real face, Lula understood why so many girls chased after him. He was insanely handsome, just like the rumors said. Unlike that other guy whose looks were nothing special, showing up without an appointment and calling me by name, bold move. You better have a good reason. Lula immediately apologized sincerely, saying, if I had not done that, you would not have met me. But clearly, he knew she was lying, so why did he still let her in? The Duke chuckled. Many girls have pursued me before, but no one as bold as you despite your beauty has dared to do this. But if you do not give me a satisfying answer, I won't hesitate to ruin that pretty face of yours. Really the cold-hearted Duke from legend. In the original story, he showed no interest in women, and he hated those who chased after him, so he can convince Lachius. You want to be left in peace. But Lula, knowing the story well, spoke confidently. Right now, the Duke is troubled by the mining situation. Is not? Lula hit the nail on the head, and there is a spy in your mansion, right? She confidently said she could help the Duke catch the traitor and help the Duke gain full rights to exploit the mine. In the end, Lula pulled out the plan she had prepared long ago. It detailed everything about the spy and everyone who had contact with him, along with the intel the spy had passed outside. The Duke would definitely be interested in these documents. This time, Lula was not just supporting him, she would read this novel so many times she knew every detail inside out. The Duke seriously asked if this intel was reliable. Lula assured him everything was true, if the Duke wanted the intel. In exchange, she wanted him to sign a fake marriage contract with her. This demand caught the Duke completely off guard, but this was exactly why Lula came in the novel. After Hira was kicked out, she accidentally met the Duke and was adopted by him. But now, she was not the original owner anymore, so there could be no intel. The Duke would not be Duke anymore. Only then could Hera become the Duke's adopted daughter. This deal was absolutely beneficial to the Duke. Through this marriage, he would officially become the owner of the mine. Lula added the condition that the marriage contract would last only 1 year. During that year, they would be married in name only. At this point, the Duke was still very confident. He was sure he would not develop any feelings for the adopted daughter. The Duke would not develop any feelings for the adopted daughter. He was certain he would not feel anything for this girl. But the Duke did not understand why Lula wanted to sign a contract that was not in her favor. Didn't she want to get something out of this marriage? Of course, Lula had her reasons. But what she really needed was a father for her son. But right now, Lula could not say that. She could only tell the Duke he would understand later. And so, they agreed on the initial terms of the contract. Lula had to return home with Hira. Once she left, the Duke suddenly laughed. What an interesting girl, trying once can't be bad. After getting home, Lula immediately went to find her son's room. She had ordered the maid to prepare a south-facing room for him. When she returned, Hira was fast asleep. Lula sat down by the bed, heart aching. Such an adorable child, she absolutely could not let him grow up as a bad person. Right now, the only thing she could do was take good care of Hira. Lula went to the kitchen and prepared lots of snacks herself. As she put pastries in the oven, she heard footsteps behind her. Lula turned around suspiciously and saw the mother of her late husband, Lula's mother-in-law. This woman did not care at all that her son had died. She only had her eyes on the inheritance her son left behind. She absolutely would not let Lula get her son's assets. She could not let Lula have what her son left behind. She absolutely would not Lula get her son's assets. Lula took her to the sitting room. The moment she opened her mouth, she criticized Lula for dressing too flashy. Widow, she should wear black, and accused Lula of causing her son's death. Lula did not want to waste time with her. She got straight to the point. Surely you did not come just to say those things today, right? The mother-in-law said bluntly. Of course. I came to reclaim my son's inheritance. Do you think you still have the right to stay in this mansion? Lula did not bother with pleasantries. This mansion belongs to me and my son. I have the Marquis's inheritance. Hearing this, she lost all her confidence. She has been hunting for that inheritance all along. Lula knows well she will never find it. After getting it, the original owner hid it where no one could find it. That is also why Lula could get this mansion. The inheritance was kept in a bank. Lula has no way to forge it. This empire, even royal family members can interfere with the bank. Her mother-in-law understands this perfectly. All she can do is swallow her anger and leave. The troublemaker is gone. Right now, The only thing Lula needs to do is let Hera live a happy life. The boy never expected his cold mother to suddenly become so kind, so much so that when they ate sweets, their reactions were totally opposite. Lula could not help but think her son was just too adorable eating sweets. Lula thought her mom just stared at the boy eating without touching the food, because she had no appetite. Lula was shocked by her son's reasoning. It seems the damage the original owner caused Hera runs deep. She had no choice but to show all her sincerity. She immediately turned to Hera and explained the truth. She apologized for never taking care of him and letting the maid bully him all this time. She promised her son she would not let anyone hurt him anymore. It is hard to believe, but she begged him to trust her this time. Faced with his mother's sudden apology, Hera was at a loss. Lula even prepared a brand new napkin for her son. Hera happily accepted it. This was the first gift he ever got from his mom. He put on the adorable bib with joy, though he did not understand why his mom suddenly changed. The feeling made him happy. She had to have guessed he needed a new napkin. Lula guessed he needed a new napkin. The boy hoped the days ahead would be just as good. The next day, Lula showed up at the Duke's mansion as promised. She had already visited the spy's base, but that person was extremely cautious. After Lula entered, the spy immediately left, so she had to rely on memory to write down the spy's activity details. To avoid being noticed by the spy, Lula decided she would catch him herself today. Lula guessed he needed a new napkin. The boy guessed he needed a new napkin. Lula entered and then quickly left, relying on memory to record the spy's activities. To prevent the spy from noticing, Lula decided to catch him herself today. Unexpectedly, the Duke wanted to come along, which surprised Lula a lot. Isn't he the Duke super busy? Yet he ignored the mountain of paperwork behind him, saying he was not busy at all. Looks like he really wants to go. After getting Lula's okay, the Duke smiled with satisfaction. The two of them headed to the casino together. The person they were looking for was in the guest room on the second floor, but as they were about to go upstairs, they were stopped. The Duke reached out and grabbed Lula's waist. "Honey, can my wife come up with me?" At that moment, Lula felt lucky to have come with the Duke. Alone, she might not have been allowed in, but as she stood before that door, she started feeling uneasy. She was not sure she could do this well. This was about the Duke family's survival, and also the future of Hera. If things went well, she would marry the Duke afterward. Only then could Hera become his adopted son. Just as Lula was psyching herself up to go in, the Duke stopped her. Then the door was shoved open. The man inside saw the Duke outside and panicked, trying to run, but the Duke cornered him, and in his panic, the man grabbed Lula hostage to threaten the Duke not to act. Seeing Lula being held hostage, the Duke did not dare to act recklessly. Seeing that, Randeep was even more convinced that this girl was incredibly important to him. If they took her hostage, this would be the perfect chance to kill the Duke. After all, once his identity was exposed, he could not survive. Randeep used Lula to threaten the Duke, demanding he close his eyes and turn his back on them. At that moment, the Duke sensed the danger. The situation was extremely unfavorable, and he might lose his life because of it. But for some reason, more than his own life, the Duke did not want to see Lula get hurt. In the end, Randeep aggressively shoved Lula toward the Duke. For Lula, this time she had to succeed no matter what, even wounded. She risked everything, using her body to block Randeep's attacks aimed at the Duke. Seeing Lula injured, the Duke exploded with fury and fought Randeep barehanded. He ordered Lula to leave. He had to deal with this guy himself. He did not want Lula to witness such a brutal scene, but driven by anger, the Duke did not wait for information from Randeep and took him down right away. Watching this, the Duke started to feel annoyed. When did I become someone who can control his emotions like this? But right now, the most important thing was to tend to Lula's wounds. He did not understand why this girl risked her life to protect him like that. Lula did not know how to explain it either. She could not say it was all because of Hela. She just said she liked the Duke's face, not wanting that handsome face to get hurt. Even the Duke was shaken by her words. After bandaging Lula's wounds, the Duke seemed lost as he watched her carriage leave. Many people had called him handsome before, but this was the first time he felt so stirred by a compliment. That compliment left the Duke unsure of what to do. Every time he thought of Lula, the Duke felt an overwhelming joy inside. Unconsciously, a smile would appear on his lips. This expression scared the subordinate, who had just finished training, as he walked by. Seeing His Highness's smile, everyone guessed he was plotting something, wondering who the unlucky target would be this time. The next morning, early, Lula spotted a messenger hawk at the Duke's estate. Curious, she opened the letter and found it was an invitation from the Duke to meet. The letter's tone was like a puppy looking up at its owner, begging for affection. Coincidentally, Lula planned to find him today. Lula went back to her room and wrote a reply to meet him tonight. That afternoon, Lula asked her maid to prepare a carriage for her, but the maid said a carriage had already been waiting outside the Duke's mansion since early morning. Lula did not expect the to be so romantic as soon as she arrived. He came to greet her himself, saying he would have been very worried because after his fiancée returned, there had been no news. Everything he wrote in the letter was sincere. He really missed her. Lula immediately thought the Duke was just like a little puppy after joking around a bit. Lula did not forget the main reason for their meeting. They had successfully completed their mission yesterday, and Lula brought the treaty with her. Since it was so hard for the Duke to meet Lula, he did not want to talk about work. Let us just catch up on how you've been lately. Even though she did not fully get what he wanted, Lula went along with it. Lately, she had been busy baking macarons and cakes. The Duke immediately chimed in. You like sweets? Lula nodded and smiled, saying she made them herself. Yes, but she made them for other people. Hearing she baked for others, the Duke's face darkened. Who are you baking for? I do not remember getting anything. Who exactly are you making sweets for? When Lula said it was for a boy, the Duke awkwardly paused for a moment. Then he laughed. Right? I forgot you have a son. Lula is suspicious. This version of the Duke's personality does not match the original story. In this contract, Lula has only one condition. The Duke must adopt Hera and take good care of him. Only after the Duke's training can Hera truly show the same self he had in the original story. That is the only way the Duke will truly see him as his son. The Duke, head over heels in love, did not refuse and even asked that during the contract period they act like a real couple. Lula, who had no plans to date anyone in this world, quickly agreed and signed. But unexpectedly, the Duke handed her a marriage certificate. Did the Duke really want to register this marriage with the Empire? The Duke just smiled and said, if we are going to do this, might as well go all the way. Besides, he never planned to actually get married. Lula did not expect he would use that as a reason to ask her to sign the marriage papers. Just then, the door suddenly swung open. An angry woman stormed in. Did she really want them to marry in secret like this? Lula recognized her immediately. It was the Duke's biological mother, Lady Camlin. The middle-aged woman gave a stern look and asked, are you the girl who wants to marry my son? Facing the woman's fairy presence, Lula felt nervous. After all, this was her future mother-in-law, and she braced herself for a fight. But what happened next caught Lula completely off guard. Lady Camlin waved for someone to bring in countless boxes of all sizes. She even brought out a family heirloom jewelry piece and held it up to Lula, asking, this is my favorite piece. Your skin is so fair, it will look perfect on you. Lula stared dumbfounded at this complete 180-degree change. Lady Camlin had always worried about her son's future and legacy. He had rejected every girl who pursued him before in her past life. Lula had never really felt family love. She did not know how to react to this sudden affection. Besides, their marriage was just a contract, and for her status, it was actually her second marriage. She felt unworthy of such a caring mother-in-law. Hearing this, both the Duke and his mother frowned, seeing Lula's lack of confidence. The Duke quickly moved to comfort her. His mother also disagreed with Lula's way of thinking. Family background and marriage do not define a person. Their family would not accept anyone who does not respect others. As long as my son truly loves you, I will treat you with the unconditional love of a mother. This kind of love, which Lula had never experienced before, warmed her heart deeply. For past life Lula, marriage was a luxury in a broken family. Growing up with domestic violence was her entire life before. Lula thought being alone was her best choice. But now she was starting to waver. If she had a mother like Lady Camlin, her life would definitely be much happier. The Duke soon made his stance clear. After we marry, my family will be your family. We will become each other's family, if you agree. We will extend the contract for 100 years. Isn't spending a year with family worth cherishing? Lula did not expect the Duke to suddenly make this request. Flustered, she changed the subject and pulled out an invitation she had received. Then she asked if the Duke wanted to go with her, but judging by his expression, it seemed he was not invited. The mood got awkward, so Lula hesitantly asked if he really had not received an invite. Unexpectedly, the Duke had already thrown his invitation away, so Lula decided to find someone else to go with. She did not want the Duke to come to a banquet he did not want to attend just because of her. But at that moment, the Duke would not let his wife go find someone else. If you do not take me, then who? Instead of looking for someone else, just come with me. Lula could not argue with that. And just like that, the two of them left together. At that moment, Lula was drawn by the gun holstered at her side. The novel mentioned this gun, but seeing it in person is a whole different vibe. Lula had imagined countless times using this gun to end her cruel father's life, but she never expected to die so quickly herself. Gongxi noticed Lula's gun holding stance was spot on. Looks like the missus is really into this kind of weapon. Gongxi took the gun back and added a spirit ring, a kind of aura that radiates from the user. It has a bit of consciousness and packs a powerful punch, with limitless potential depending on how it is used. After piercing a target, the spirit ring returns to the shooter, making it more convenient than bullets. But not everyone can use this ability. In the novel, Hira took 3 years to master this skill. The number Gongxi controls now has everyone amazed. Seeing Lula staring at the ring, Gongxi asked suspiciously, "Do you like the spirit ring more than my face?" Lula found his pouty tone and expression just like a sulking puppy. She could not help but reach out to pat his head, and Gongxi realized she really saw him as her little puppy, though she denied it out loud. Her hands were blushing red. Lula did not get home until late afternoon, and she even brought sweets for Hera. The boy is so skinny. He really needs to eat more. When the door opened and she saw Hera trying to avoid her gaze, she guessed he would been caught sneaking around. Lula put the cake she made right in front of Hera. Sure, he would love it. Sure enough, as soon as Hera took a bite, he happily said it was delicious and even wanted his mom to try some. That gesture touched Lula deeply. Though Hera did not fully trust her yet, he was making real efforts to get closer. She had to encourage him to be braver. For the first time, Hera tried to show affection to his mom despite being scared. He fed Lula some cake. That moment moved Lula so much. She bowed her head and ate the cake her son offered. Hera's eyes lit up like stars as he happily finished the rest of the sweets. Lula even wanted to invite Hera to the courtyard to sit on the swing, but when he heard that, Hera's smile suddenly vanished. This girl was not just a rich lady, she had a generous mother-in-law who loved gifting her, and a cute little boy. But sadly, the original owner was a cruel woman. She even destroyed the swing her son loved most with her own hands. That left an unhealable wound in Hera's heart. So in the future, even if he became emperor, Hera would come back to this old home and make himself a swing. Every time Lula thought about these tragic details from the original story, her heart ached. Luckily, she fixed the swing just in time for Hera. He hoped this swing could make up for a little of what he lost. Sure enough, when he saw the swing, Hera was overjoyed. But even so, a sincere apology to the child was essential. She promised Hera she would never hurt him again. Lula did not expect Hera had a little gift for her too. When he hurried off to get it, he stumbled and fell, and Lula rushed over, worried. She saw his knee was scraped, but he stubbornly said he was fine. Lula understood Hera's feelings while her past self was the same way, afraid of being scolded or beaten. She always endured the pain silently. Lula gently hugged Hera, and in doing so, she embraced her own inner pain too. From now on, you do not have to endure anything next to your mom. Pain is not your fault, so you have to speak up loud and clear. She vowed to give Hera all her love. This adorable kid can't let childhood wounds turn him into a bad person. After urging Hera to quickly go put on the ointment, she did not expect him to suddenly ask loudly, "Can I hold your hand?" When Lula agreed, Hera's whole face lit up with happiness. Maybe it is because Hera has always longed for his mother's love. After returning to his room, Hera shyly took out a small gift he had prepared. "I just made this earlier. I wonder if you will like it." "Mom?" Lula smiled, gently stroking her son's head, saying she loved anything made by her Hera. When the little rose was placed in front of her, Lula could not help but be amazed. Could it be that Hera has been busy making this all these days? Lula felt that compared to the gift her son made with his own hands, what she did for him seemed trivial. Hera was also happy to see his mother accept his gift. The next day, Lula went back to the Duke's mansion with the official contract in hand. The Duke was not very happy that his wife brought up work right after meeting. Seeing Lula drink the bubble tea he specially prepared, the Duke could not help but ask in surprise, "You never used to drink the tea I gave you before, so you really do like sweets. This bubble tea is something I made just for you. Do you like it?" Seeing the Duke's smile, Lula did not expect that just 1 cup of bubble tea could make him this happy. She shyly nudged him to hurry up and sign the contract. Once that was done, the next task was to train Hyla, and the Duke was the best teacher. Most of his family members had their own magic rings. Those who can use this special power are shunned by the family. In the novel, it took Hyla 3 years just to get 3 rings, and even as emperor, he only had 7, but the Duke had countless rings. So Lula guessed not everyone in his family could use the magic rings. Lula wanted the Duke to teach her how to use the power too, so she could help Hyla, but the Duke set one condition: "Every day you give me a kiss, and I will teach you." Lula was speechless and glared at him. Lately, the Duke has really been into teasing like this. The Duke sighed in disappointment that he could not get closer to his wife, but facing his wife's power, He reluctantly agreed, at least this way he could see her more often. Lula also mentioned she knew only 3 people in the Duke's mansion could use the power. Among them was Gila's original teacher from the story. She wanted to meet those 3 first, but the Duke, being jealous, could not agree to let his wife meet others. He sulked, saying that would cut into their private time together. Lula reminded him that once they were married, she would have to know them anyway, so she wanted him to introduce them to her now. In the end, the Duke was won over by her charm. No one expected that after just a month apart, the Duke had escaped the single life curse. Rosanna stared at the letter in her hand, stunned, while her aunt studied it carefully. Then they agreed this was definitely the Duke's new alliance. To fool everyone, they called it a marriage, because the Duke clearly did not like women. But next, they were completely shocked by what they saw. The Duke did not just bring one girl, he was beaming with happiness. This has to be a dream, right? The Duke ignored his subordinate's stunned expression and casually introduced Lula. Lula clearly remembered the original teacher had platinum blonde hair, so these 2 definitely were not him. But Lula waited a long time without the Duke introducing the other 2. She suspiciously asked him, "Didn't you want to introduce us?" The Duke just told his subordinate to continue. "Call them whatever you want. If you do not know, just say E." Lula was annoyed by his casual attitude. Only then did the Duke seriously introduce, "This is Commander Rosanna." As for Ruger, he chose to ignore it and not mention it. After Lula and the Duke left, Rosanna and Ruger sat down together. Feeling suspicious about life, Ruger asked, confused, "Did something happen while I was away from the Prince's Hall?" Rosanna quickly dismissed it. "Do you really think something could happen to His Highness?" Then she sighed helplessly. "I have been a commander for 10 years and still can't figure it out." Just as she finished, Ruger teased, "Commander for 10 years and still only 1 cycle of spirit energy." Right when they were about to argue, a man with platinum hair walked up. A few days later, Lula attended a Highland family banquet. Luckily, a few days earlier she had dug up some info on the shady rumors in noble circles. Among the gathered news, there were some really strange issues. But since the letters came anonymously, Lula had no idea who sent them. At that moment, a woman appeared, interrupting Lula's thoughts. Lula recognized her as Lady Niliel. Lady Niliel immediately asked if Lula was about to get married again. Her question was no surprise to Lula, but as she finished speaking, behind Lula came the gossip of another group of noble women. They said Lula was trying to climb the social ladder through marriage. Lula bluntly said her fiancé was the Duke himself. Hearing this, everyone could not help but whisper again. Seeing this, Lady Niliel quickly pulled Lula away. Lula could not tell if Niliel was friend or foe from this behavior. She did not want to lie about this. Before clarifying, she looked for an excuse to break away from Lady Niliel. Just as Lula left, she spotted a familiar man, judging by his Breck family crest. He was from the Breck clan. Lula clearly had never met him before, yet he felt oddly familiar. While Lula was still thinking, the man stepped right up to her. "I am wondering if we have met before. Have not we?" he said. Lula did not know how to respond but was sure he was not in the original records, so she steadied herself and replied, "No way. We definitely have not met." The man could only apologize and walk away, but Lula still felt the man was very familiar. Could it be because he looked a lot like her father? As Lula turned to leave, the Duke grabbed her hand. He placed a kiss on her hand, making Lula blush deeply. She quickly pulled her hand back and told the Duke not to do that in front of everyone. The Duke did not even bother to care. He smiled and said, "But I missed you so much." Lula was speechless. "But we just met yesterday." The Duke was not embarrassed at all. A day apart feels like an eternity. Then he happily took his wife's hand, facing everyone's curious eyes. Lula shyly told the Duke to be more modest. The Duke did not care about any of that. "No matter what, I'm your," he said, making Lula's face turn even redder. She stammered, asking the Duke to come somewhere else with her. "There are too many people watching us here." Hearing that, the Duke asked, "Don't tell me you are scared of the man with the pockmarked face and big belly over there. Looks like you are really interested in him. You even chatted with him." That is when Lula understood the Duke was marking his territory out of jealousy. She never expected him to be jealous of a beer belly uncle. She hurriedly explained they did not even know each other. She found it funny watching the Duke acting so possessive. Hearing that, the Duke immediately demanded his rights. "If that is the case, then give me your full attention. Don't even think about anyone else." Lula and the Duke headed to the balcony. She asked why he was so late. The Duke explained he had some things to take care of, stayed behind to look for something. But in the end, he still could not find it. The two of them sat down on the swing. The Duke, worried Lula might be cold, politely took off his coat and put it on her. Hearing the Duke mention he was looking for something, Lula remembered what was mentioned in the original story. It was about the shadow, also about those who use corrupted spirit rings. Unlike normal spirit rings, shadows can be returned to their user's hands if a normal spirit ring is found. The shadow clings to it and absorbs all its power. The Duke was investigating this. The reason Lula came today was to meet Hazy, but why has not she met him yet? Little did she know, right after lying, she actually met the person. Lula was so eager to meet him that she forgot the Duke was sitting right next to her. When the Duke learned Lula wanted to meet an important person related to the mining operation, he cheekily asked for one favor before she left. That favor was a kiss. Lula blushed. Flustered by his teasing, the two of them were sweetly hanging out on the balcony. Unaware that a woman was watching every move, that woman was none other than the lady of the house inside. She thought Lula and the Duke were just acting out a scene this time. She never expected Lula actually had feelings for that man, but love just did not fit Lula's old image. Although Noel did not understand why things turned out this way, she liked this new Lula even more. Meanwhile, Lula ultimately rejected the Duke's request for a kiss. Just at that moment, Lula turned her back on the Duke. And right then, Lula turned her back on the Duke. At that moment, Lula turned her back on the Duke. Lula had completely ignored him, looking weaker than before. Lula seemed off. Lahoa worked really hard to support Rai, so Walaka invited Louie, saying Lula would be going somewhere else to talk. So Lula and Hallie headed to the guest room. Lula straightforwardly asked Hallie if she wanted to take over the family. That question startled Hallie. Lula quickly explained, "Please calm down. I am not trying to threaten you. I just believe you will win this family battle. I think you are perfect for this role." Hallie said she was still considering it. She also asked if Lula could help her claim that position. Lula confidently promised she would provide whatever Hallie needed, but in return, if the mineral mine that the family controls belongs to her, she must give it to me. Within a year, I will help you secure that position. Hallie agreed to Lula's terms, and the two quickly became allies. Outside, the Duke was about to turn into a lovesick fool. He completely ignored everything Ruger said. He flat out refused. "I do not want to talk to someone who is crashing my date with Lula." Ruger instantly regretted coming here. Suddenly, a shadow appeared at the banquet. The Duke immediately switched to serious mode. He told Ruger to stay and escort Lula back. After discussing official matters, Lula stepped outside but only saw Ruger, not the Duke. She guessed the Duke left after discovering the shadow's whereabouts. Ruger explained the Duke left with Rosanna, so Lula did not need to worry. Of course, it would be better if he went with Hyzet, but he has to stay and protect Lula. Ruger noticed her unhappy expression. Ruger nervously explained, "Hyzet is a member of the night team, someone Lula has not met yet." Lula was not jealous the Duke left. She was just anxious to find her son's teacher. Plus, Hyzet is a character she really loves from the original story. She just felt bad for not meeting him last time. She asked Ruger if he could introduce her to Hyzet, so she could get to know him. She just really wanted to meet that person. Guided by Ruger, Lula made her way to Hyzet's house. In the original story, Hyzet becomes Hyla's mentor and also a close brother figure to him. Hyzet asked Lula who she was. Before Lula could answer, Ruger accidentally cut her off. "If you do not treat this guy well, life won't be peaceful for you later." Lula quickly stepped forward to explain and introduce herself. After learning Lula was the Duke's fiancée, Hyzet's attitude softened quite a bit. When Hyzet asked Ruger where the Duke was, he got an answer. Ruger's task today was to take Miss Lula for a stroll around the Duke's mansion. After changing into his knight's outfit, Lula did not expect him to dress so formally. She guessed Ruger might be worried he would blame himself if he failed his mission, so he took this chance to take Hyzet out for a walk. Hyzet looked exactly like his original story character, but when the two walked together, the atmosphere was super awkward. Lula just had to treat the Duke like the host and keep the conversation going. She asked Hyzet if the Duke's been busy with work lately. Unexpectedly, the Duke was sulking, and the busy that Hyzet mentioned was something totally different. His current mission was to search for a dark magic stone mine. This was an incredibly valuable item in the original story. Unfortunately, most of the stones were just coal or magical stones with weak power, requiring a lot of time and money. Hearing this, Lula suddenly had an idea this time. Her household's resources and senior connections might finally come in handy. She smiled and told Hyzet that soon she might bring a special gift for the Duke. Seeing Lula's beautiful smile, Hyzet suddenly looked down. Out of Lula's sight, Hyzet's face flushed bright red. Lula wondered what was wrong, and he mumbled that it seemed he would just seen something. Lula thought Hyzet must be tired from work and having hallucinations. A few days later, Lula's ex-mother-in-law showed up demanding the will. This time, Lula was fully prepared. The woman snatched the will from Lula's hand and tore it up without saying a word. Lula stayed calm and said, "Don't tear it. That is a fake copy. What she tore was just a replica." This one is the original. Do you want me to show you the bank's archived records? Hearing that, the woman got even angrier and started yelling insults at Lula. Lula did not hold back, saying, "You should know I am about to get married. The fiancé is a duke, so by noble etiquette, you should treat me with the respect due to a duchess, to give her son a better life." This girl specially found a wealthy and powerful man to be the kid's support. Unexpectedly, the ex-mother-in-law still came to cause trouble. This time, Lula did not hesitate to show off her status as the duke's fiancée. "I even agreed to meet you because is something I want from you." The woman was a bit suspicious, wondering what Lula wanted to get. Lula had to think about how to get her agree to the conditions she set. First, she wanted a pass granting direct access to the Kingdom of Nixon, controlled by the Masmal family. Second, custody rights. The woman could not believe Lula was only asking for these two things. The pass was worthless to her, and Lula's request did not benefit her at all. Seeing her silence, Lula offered a deal to compensate her properly. Hearing that, the ex-mother-in-law was very pleased, but tried to hide it. She pretended to hesitate, saying, "Do you know how important these two things are to me? What do you want to offer in exchange?" Lula was already prepared. She recalled Hubbard's formula suggesting the dark magic stone mine last time. What about using that to trade with her? The woman could not believe it. When she heard this, she acted indifferent. But inside, she secretly mocked Lula for not knowing the value of the dark magic stone, yet bringing this up as a trade. She quickly agreed, fearing Lula would change her mind, and urged the maid to quickly bring the contract over. Lula was happy. It was not bad if they could peacefully achieve their goal. A few days passed, and Lula felt like she had almost finished all her tasks. The only thing bothering her was how to tell Hira about her remarriage. If she introduced them directly, she worried it might be too sudden for Hira to accept. Lula thought about it for hours, but could not come up with a good way. Everything had been going smoothly these past few months. She figured if she was honest with Hira, he would probably accept it. So that afternoon, Lula called Hira over for tea. The moment Hira saw the sweets, his eyes lit up, and he happily took a big bite. Lula was delighted that Hira liked sweets. She noticed crumbs stuck at the corner of his mouth. Lula reached out to wipe it off, but Hira flinched and squeezed his eyes shut in surprise. Lula awkwardly pulled back her hand and handed him a handkerchief to wipe his mouth himself. Seeing Hira drop his guard with the handkerchief, he burst into tears, and Lula anxiously asked what was wrong. Hira sobbed, "Mom, you treat me so well now. Why was not it like this before?" Lula wiped her son's tears. Heartbroken, Hira had no idea that her soul had changed. He must have been so scared but held it together until now. Lula apologized to Hira, explaining that she treated him that way because she lost his father. "But it would not happen again, I promise. You are my most precious treasure." Hearing that, Hira threw himself into Lula's arms and cried loudly. After a while, he wiped his tears and sat up straight, and Lula felt it was time to tell him, "We are going to have a new family member soon." Hira looked confused, not understanding. Then she told him that she was going to marry a good man. "He is a really good guy and will be a great dad too. But if you do not want a new dad, you can just tell me." But Hira shook his head firmly, saying it was okay, and that he thought the man would be like an angel, just like his mom. Lula then asked if Hira wanted to come with her to meet the Duke. The next day, Lula took Hira to the Duke's mansion on the carriage. Hira was super tense, his legs bouncing nervously. Lula smiled, watching her adorable son. Hira even lied to himself, saying he was not nervous. Soon they arrived at the mansion. Lula helped Hira down, and the Duke was already waiting at the door, but he jokingly said he was jealous and wished she could be that close to him too. That made Hira start doubting this new dad. Is it true that this stepdad is a kind man? "Mom," the Duke turned sour and jealous again, the target being his future son. The three of them headed to the party that was ready early. Hira felt super uneasy because the chair was not comfortable. Noticing this, Lula suggested he sit on her lap. Hira hesitated, saying it was not proper, but Lula just pulled him into her arms anyway. The moment she did, she felt someone's eyes staring right at her. Looking up, the Duke immediately changed his expression into a smile, but Hira saw the whole creepy look. He realized the stepdad kept looking at them with that scary expression. Hira thought maybe it was because he was not being polite that the stepdad was upset, but actually, Hira was overthinking it was just jealousy. Next, the Duke put on a sly fox grin and expressed hope to Lula about Hira, eager to get to know the boy better. "Can I have Hira sit on my lap? Trust me, I will take good care of him." Hira did not expect things would go this way. Even though the stepdad looked scary, he still chose to trust his mom. Mom said the stepdad was a kind man, and Hira noticed this man clearly cared deeply for her. In the end, Hera agreed to the Duke's request. The Duke also managed to get Hera to sit on his lap. This familiar move of his left Lula amazed. The Duke looked like he was used to taking care of kids. Hearing that, the Duke proudly claimed he was skilled at everything. He even specially grabbed Hera's favorite macaron for the boy. This made Lula believe he would be a great dad. Plus, they looked a bit alike like father and son. The Duke even carefully wiped the crumbs off Hera's face. At that moment, Hera let go of his fear, and the three happily ate together. Once the sweets were gone, Hera peacefully fell asleep in the Duke's arms. He smiled and told the maid to take Hera to rest. Lula and the Duke finally had some alone time as he took her to the rose garden. He asked which flower she liked, but her answer was totally unrelated. Lula wanted a swing there because it was Hera's favorite. That comment hit the Duke like a punch to the gut, right after he had finished a whole bottle of vinegar. But what could he do? After all, that was their son. He asked if she liked the garden, and Lula said it reminded her of a walk she took there with Hyzet. The Duke's face darkened. How come he did not know about this? Lula had no idea how he was feeling. She honestly explained that Ruger had asked Hyzet to take her for a walk to keep her from worrying. The Duke held back his urge to punch someone. He said maybe he was just too tense around Lula. You must be tired from walking so long. Let us go somewhere else to rest. This garden even has a secret hideout. Hearing that, Lula got excited. Her novel had mentioned this place too, to help their son master magic early. Lula asked her fancy to teach her properly. Unexpectedly, just from a casual try, she managed to summon a rare golden magic ring. In the original story, Hera took 8 years of hard training to do that. It was a tough time. He often hid and cried in a secret corner of the garden. That spot was exactly where the Fancy planned to bring Lula a truly beautiful secluded nook. The Fancy showed a single chair there. Lula hesitated, wondering if she should sit, but he calmly sat down first. Didn't you tell me to sit here? Lula asked. Surprise! He smiled and patted his thigh. You just sit right here. Then he pulled Lula close and whispered, meeting you was the luckiest thing in my life. Suddenly, a necklace appeared around Lula's neck. She looked at him, puzzled. What is this? It is a wedding gift, he said. I hope you like it. Lula felt the magical power hidden in the necklace and immediately recalled when she asked him to teach her before. She asked if he remembered. He nodded seriously. Of course. Every word you said is engraved in my mind. Lula blushed. How could he say such romantic things without batting an eye? At her request, he decided to teach her how to use the magic ring today. He would actually prepared a special learning gift for her long ago. Lula looked at the pair of guns, thinking she should make him a musical instrument as a gift next time. The Fancy bluntly said he was born knowing how to use the magic ring, but he was not as good at teaching as Hyzet, and he absolutely would not let Hyzet teach Lula. Lula was speechless, not understanding why he disliked Hyzet so much. He showed her how to use the magic ring, like this, and it is done. Lula was stunned. That is all there is to it. She did not even know how to summon the ring properly. Yet he suggested she try shooting at times to get the feel of it. Thinking about how Hyzet took 8 years with the knights helped to succeed, Lula doubted she could get it right on the first try. With a let us try mindset, she picked up the gun and, following the Duke's instructions, focused on sensing the magic. When she suddenly pressed the trigger, to their surprise, a golden glowing ring appeared, spinning in midair. Lula reached out to touch her hand, unable to believe she would succeeded on her very first try. The next day, Lula returned to her manor and sat down to think over everything that had happened recently. Everything's going too smoothly, and that just makes her uneasy. The story's already gone beyond the original plot, and Lula can't shake the feeling that something big is about to happen. Lost in thought, suddenly a maid bursts in, panicked, shouting that something is wrong. The maid's face went pale as she hurried. Your Majesty, it is not good. Before the maid could finish, the man who just entered pushed her aside and said, Lula, I have come to take you. Lula thought she could quietly get married and live peacefully. But the villain from the original story came knocking first. Facing the sudden appearance of the Emperor, Lula could only bow politely, but then he pulled her close. I remember the cat that ran away years ago. I will deal with that cat later. Those words stunned Lula. Could he be calling her that runaway cat? Could the original owner have known the Emperor before? In the original story, the Emperor was the villain, the one who possessed a corrupted magic ring, constantly opposing and suppressing both Duke Lashias and Lun Hera, but there was never any mention of a connection between the original owner and the Emperor. While Lula was still thinking, the Emperor wrapped his arms around her waist, pulling her close. It has been a while. You have grown even more beautiful." Then he suddenly scooped her up horizontally, even though she begged to be put down. The emperor did not let go, clearly. He was not here to escort her, he was here to take her away. They were brought to the sitting room, and Lula still could not grasp what was really happening. She had to figure out the relationship between the original owner and the emperor, judging by his comment about the runaway cat. It was clear their relationship was not good, so for now, pretending not to know him was the safest move. Unexpectedly, the emperor suddenly moved closer. "Can you look at this?" He lifted Lula's hand, and a magic ring appeared in his palm. Lula did not understand how this related to her, but in an instant, the number of rings multiplied and appeared on her hand. The emperor beamed. "Just as I thought, you can use the rings." That is when Lula realized the original owner could use the rings too, and hers was a pure yellow. So the emperor had been using the original owner's ring to purify his corrupted magic ring in the original tale. Before ascending the throne, the emperor had no strong claim to inheritance, but suddenly gained immense power and overwhelming support to take the crown. Lula had always wondered how he pulled that off. Now it made sense if he could harness the original owner's power. Everything was explainable in the novelist's setup. Few could use the magic rings, and Lula was one of the rare ones unfortunately discovered and exploited by the emperor. But the original owner did not want to be his tool and hurriedly married her first husband, Massimil, believing that having a husband would keep the emperor away. Now that Massimil has passed, the emperor took the chance to come knocking at her door. Lula looked at her hand. The magic rings were purified, while the emperor looked extremely pleased. "Seems your ring still remembers me." Things were not looking good, and there was no way the emperor would let her off easily. "Still," Lula told him clearly, "it is time for me to leave." Suddenly, the emperor grabbed her hand fiercely. "But I am not done talking yet. Looks like a pet lost outside too long becomes disobedient. No matter what, I want to let you go. I do not know what your marriage with the Duke is about, but a man like him, famous for having no interest in women, can never truly love you, so your marriage is just a contract. The only one who truly loves you is me." Lula knew the empress' lovey-dovey act was just a ploy to use her. Men like that always use feelings as a game, just like her gambling-addicted father in her past life. Said touching words only to serve his own interests. She did not want to be hurt and tormented anymore. Now, beside her was the Duke, as he once said. They would become a family in this world. Finally, there was someone who truly cared for and loved her. Right after that, Lula nervously pulled her hand back. She apologized, saying she could not agree with His Majesty's words, because she knew someone truly loved her. It was only then that she realized the person she wanted to be with forever was the Duke. Facing the emperor's threats, she did not hesitate at all, but the emperor did not take Lula seriously and just thought she was throwing a tantrum. She did not want to back down anymore. Just then, loud noises came from outside, and the Duke rushed in. Panicked, Lula was surprised, wondering how he found her here. "What are you doing here? I have been looking for you for so long." Lula seized the moment, linking her arm with his gently. "I was just about to come find you too." Hearing that, the Duke's mind exploded, while the emperor grew furious seeing them so close. The emperor shouted, "How can you come in here without permission?" The Duke glanced at him coolly. "Sorry, I did not see you, but you are the one who roughly dragged my fiancée away. Are you trying to ruin the long-standing peace between the Duke's house and the royal family? I hope something like this never happens again." Without another word, he grabbed Lula, turned, and left, leaving the emperor looking deeply annoyed. Lula climbed into the carriage the Duke had prepared, her mind racing, wondering what her past self truly wanted. Maybe this would turn into a hidden danger for the future. Suddenly, the Duke's hand touched her cheek. His eyes filled with suspicion. "Why is there something stuck to your face?" He wanted to know what the emperor and Lula had just been talking about. He warned her, "If he bothers you again next time, just ignore him. I will handle the rest." Lula did not expect him to be willing to stand up to the entire royal family for her. She hesitated. "Why would you go through all this for me?" The Duke answered simply, "Because you are my wife." Lula quickly reminded him, "But we only have a 1-year contract marriage." The Duke looked her straight in the eye. Firm, "A contract marriage is still marriage. I will love my wife until the contract ends." Hearing that, Lula's heart warmed up, and she asked, "How did you know I was in the palace?" The Duke pointed to the necklace he had given her. "I sensed something dirty was after you." Lula touched the necklace. Turns out it had a magic tracking spell the Duke had placed inside. He added, "Your maid has already told me everything." Unexpectedly, The Emperor was the dark mage the Duke had been hunting for so long. Lula recalled the original story's detail, though the Duke eventually learned the Emperor was a dark mage. He stopped investigating further. The Duke's family and the royal family had long been involved in shady dealings that strengthened the throne, but at an unknown cost. The Duke probably knew this secret too. Soon after, Lula returned to her mansion. Sincerely thanking the Duke for helping her today, he just smiled and said it was nothing, because we are husband and wife. But when Lula called his name, his heart raced uncontrollably. Meanwhile, the Emperor still could not believe it. He always thought Lula and the Duke were just contract spouses. But judging by the Duke's panicked look earlier, it was clear he truly loved her. The Emperor grinned wickedly. Good! I can use Lula to gain even more. After what happened last time, Lula wanted to thank the Duke again. Today, she planned to bake cookies for Gila and made extra to bring to the Duke's mansion. But her maid gave her heart-shaped cookie cutters, making her secretly hope the Duke would not overthink it. A little later, Lula wrapped the cookies and personally headed to the Duke's mansion. She told the guards not to announce her arrival, because she wanted it to be a surprise. Unexpectedly, she ran into Ruger right at the door, and then Rosanna quickly appeared too. Lula figured there were enough cookies to share with the knights for a taste. Rosanna was clearly delighted. She loved sweets, but rarely got to have them, because the Duke did not like them. Hearing that, Lula was surprised, so the Duke really did not like sweets. Ruger chimed in. It is not that he dislikes it, he absolutely hates it. So Lula gave all the leftover cakes to Rosanna. If the Duke does not like sweets, then consider this a gift for everyone else. Senza will just have to prepare a different gift. Only after Lula left did the Duke step out. He sensed her presence earlier and rushed to find her. But she was gone before he could catch up. He regretted not coming out sooner. Just then, Rosanna came running over with a basket of cookies. Shouting happily, Miss Lula is amazing. I have never tasted cookies this good. Rosanna did not notice the owner's face darken at all. Looking up, she saw the Duke grinding his teeth. So these were the cookies Lula gave everyone. After eating those cookies, he would have energy for days. Next week's training plan with Senza definitely needs to step up. At that moment, Rosanna deeply regretted bragging earlier. Ruger sighed heavily. Why are you so clueless? While they were both complaining, the Duke already came up with a plan to keep Lula around. Meanwhile, at a cozy afternoon tea, Hiram obediently enjoyed the heart-shaped cookies his mom made. Suddenly he remembered something and looked up. Mom, a few days ago, the maid read me a fairy tale where a witch fattens up her kid and then eats him. Hearing that, Lula laughed, gently rubbing his head. You think I would eat you just because you are chubby? I would never eat such a cute little boy like you. You are so good and smart. One day, you will grow into an awesome adult who bravely fights evil. In the original story, Hira always struggled with his appearance, but this time, Lula was determined to stop that from happening again. Kids need to eat well and grow fast. Right? Hira was touched and seriously promised, I will protect you. Mom, you have changed so much because of Dad's death. I hope you won't have to suffer anymore. I will always protect you. Lula felt her son maturing and smiled. Mom will always protect you too. That night, while Lula sat in her room sorting through recent events, she thought she needed a plan to change Hera's guardianship. Just then, the magic formula pendant suddenly lit up. Lula jumped up immediately, her magic circle stirring, proving the formula was nearby. Sure enough, the next moment he pushed the door and walked in, upset about not getting any cookies. The formula came straight to his fiancée's house to sulk. He pitifully said, When I came looking for you, you were already gone and did not even glance my way, but you left those delicious cookies for the knights. His heartfelt complaint stunned Lula. She gave the cookies away because she heard he hated sweets. But the formula kept whining that the Zuga guys laughed at him, saying he was the only one who did not get to eat Miss Lula's cookies. Lula quickly explained, I thought you hated sweets the most. Unexpectedly, the formula arrogantly replied, I do not hate them at all. If you feel bad, then just give me a hug. His obvious tone made Lula firmly refuse. I honestly did not know this time. Next time, if I mess, I will apologize first. Then she brought up wanting Hallie to become the house steward. Surprisingly, the formula got even more upset, thinking, I am in my prime age, and my wife's talking about work. This really bums me out. But Lula ignored his sulking and went on about the magical mineral mine. She even negotiated with her former mother-in-law to trade passage rights to the Nixon Kingdom for the mine the formula just found. Formula was shocked and utterly worthless. Mine traded just for passage rights. Lula nodded. Yep, She was so thrilled she did not even bother to read the contract terms. The formula could not help but feel proud how smart his wife was. Since being with you, everything's gotten simpler. That makes me want to stay with even more, but in Lula's hands. Those sweet words sounded like he only cared about how useful she was and wanted her support to continue. If that is true, then all those emotional wounds do not really matter anymore. Just then, Formula leaned in close and asked, "If I hand over the mineral mine to you, what will you give me in return?" His sudden closeness made Lula blush, her heart racing. Her feelings for Formula were strange right now. But in the original story, he never loved any woman. She told herself to give up these impossible thoughts. Maybe he was just fulfilling a contract in the end. After hesitating, she agreed to bake him some more cookies. Like a little puppy, Formula happily accepted right away. A few days later, Lula brought the freshly baked cookies to visit, but she was told Formula had found a lead on the shadow. Lula immediately remembered that in the original story, Formula stopped investigating after discovering the shadow's controller was the Emperor. Now that the plot had veered off course, the info she knew was useless. Maybe Formula would not be interested in her anymore next time. It was supposed to be just a side story. So why did she feel such a loss inside? She forced a small smile, thinking, if Formula's not here, can I train with everyone else? Ruger immediately got excited. I am the best at teaching newbies. Hyzet frowned at that and drew his sword, ready to attack. Ruger acted all friendly on the outside, but secretly deflected Hyzet's technique. His attack style was still simple, always just a straight strike. His smug look only made Hyzet more annoyed. If you keep fighting like that, your magic ring will lose its power, Hyzet warned. But Lula did not want to learn shooting yet, and then Ruger barged in, suggesting she and Hyzet have a match. Loser has to do whatever the winner says. Hearing that, Lula got interested. If she won, she could make Hyzet heal us, teacher. Ruger immediately grabbed a bag of popcorn and stepped aside, acting like he was ready for some entertainment. With Ruger hosting, the match between Lula and Hyzet officially started. Aiming to see who could find more spiritual rings, Lula immediately entered the forest to search, knowing deep down she was unlikely to win since Hyzet was skilled with the rings and knew the training ground well. Still, she was not about to give up and searched harder. By chance, she approached a warehouse and thought maybe a ring was hidden inside, so she pushed the door open. To her surprise, it was covered in dust, obviously unused for ages. Luckily, she did find a ring inside, but even more surprising, in a dark corner, a shadow floated, spinning slowly. Lula immediately realized Formula's mansion had been bugged with spies. Though the original story never mentioned spies at all, she thought to herself she would wait for Formula to return and tell him about this. Just then, the spinning spiritual ring suddenly shot its claw-like tip out the door. Lula hurried after it and saw the shadow absorbing the rings Ruger had just thrown. Seeing that, Lula aimed her gun at the ring, thinking if she could find just one more, she could win. But at that moment, she suddenly fell into warm arms. Lula was shocked and scared, did not expect Formula to appear out of nowhere. She quickly told him what she had just discovered. Formula just warned her, if you ever encounter a shadow again, never touch it. Lula was surprised he did not seem worried at all. Maybe he already knew about them, so she brought up the fish trap incident with Hyzet. Formula immediately agreed. I will help you win. I know there is one more ring over there. Over there. Where? Lula asked. Formula said it was a secret underground vault holding the family's heirloom treasure. He even smiled, saying, we are family now. There is nothing I would not show you. Lula did not expect such a family treasure to be so openly shared with outsiders. She suggested they still find the ring first, but Formula did not care at all and even hoped Hyzet would be slow to find the place. Then casually pushed open the door ahead. This is the heirloom treasure passed down through generations in our family. Outsiders only know it as a gift from the royal family, but in truth, it is a magical artifact. The entire ancestral spirit circle of the family is sealed inside here. Ever since the empire was founded, the royal family has always feared the power of the Duke family spirit circle. They gathered ordinary people who could see the circles and formed a squad of knights. But that whole squad was powerless against the Duke family. The royal family imposed a limit, sealing our ancestors' spirit circles inside this. If anyone dares betray the royal family, the family bloodline will pay the price. But I have never locked my own spirit circle in there. Even though many opposed me back then, none could stand against my power. Lula recalled that in the original story, nothing happened when Hera became emperor, probably because he does not carry the Duke family's bloodline. Right after that, the Duke said I helped him find Ruger's circle, but in return, Lula had to hang out with him. But this time, The Duke's in for a disappointment. Lula explained she had to take Hira on an outing tomorrow, and still had a lot to prepare today. Hearing this, the Duke immediately acted annoyed. Fine. I will help you find the circle. But you have to let me join the outing tomorrow. Lula did not expect the Duke to offer to come along. But thinking about it, it was a good chance for him and Hera to bond, so she nodded in agreement. The Duke was overjoyed like a kid. And then tonight I will probably be too excited to sleep, but what if you lose? What will you want from Hyzit? Lula smiled softly. That is a wish. It is something I have wanted to do ever since I first learned about Hyzit. The next day, the three of them went on their first outing together, only for something to go wrong. At the Duke's request, Lula let him come along on their first trip out. Hera was super excited. Mom, this place is so beautiful. It is the first time I have ever been somewhere this amazing. The Duke had already arranged a boat for them to row on the lake. Hearing that, Hera was ecstatic. Let us go boating together. When the three got on the boat, the boy leaned over the side, gazing at the lake's shimmering surface. Under the sun, it was breathtaking. Lula saw how much her son enjoyed it and thought quietly that she should take him out more often. But unexpectedly, Hera's gaze shifted as he stared blankly into the water. Silent, Lula quickly sensed that something was wrong. Suddenly, the boy leaned over and fell into the water. Luckily, the Duke reacted super fast, grabbing him and pulling him back. But Hera's face remained calm as he said, there was something floating in the lake that wanted to be caught. Lula worried. This is dangerous. What if you fall again? Hera whispered sorry, then suddenly fainted in his mother's arms. The Duke immediately checked him, but found no signs of danger. Still, to be safe, they decided to head back right away and find a doctor. They quickly returned to the Duke's residence, where the doctor found no problems after examining Hera. He only explained that the boy was unconscious because he was in a deep sleep and would wake up soon. But under the Duke's icy, death-like stare, the doctor broke into a sweat despite seeing no abnormal symptoms. The Duke had to ask the doctor to leave, but Lula remained deeply worried since her son looked like he was possessed. The Duke could only comfort her, telling her to be patient. Hera would wake up soon enough. Then he handed Lula a letter, saying, this is for you. I am holding on to it for now. Lula took it. Sure enough, her name was on the envelope. The contents were strange. This person was even worse than the last. You deserve better. None of that matters. Please do not die. Lula could not help but wonder if this person had been very close to the original owner. The Duke curiously asked what the letter said, but Lula thought it over and decided not to tell him. But the more she hid it, the more curious the Duke became. So reluctantly she handed him the letter, hoping he would not be angry. After reading it, the Duke was silent for a long moment, then suddenly laughed out loud. I do not know who this is, but the way he looks at people is not bad at all. I can't even believe myself. I really do not measure up to you. He laughed heartily and said that just made him even more eager to announce our wedding. After all, I have found such an amazing wife. Lula quickly turned away, blushing with embarrassment. Formula seemed really optimistic about this marriage, making Lula wonder if after their one-year contract ended, they might actually stay married. Just then, Hera on the bed showed signs of waking up, and both of them immediately turned to look. The boy slowly opened his eyes but suddenly panicked, flailing his arms and legs wildly, repeating over and over, Mom, I was wrong. I was wrong. I am sorry. Mom, I am sorry. Lula painfully realized Hera had suddenly lost his memories. Seeing him so distressed, Formula quickly approached and gently asked if the boy still remembered him. Sure enough, Hera just stared coldly at Formula, completely failing to recognize him. That is when Lula knew her son had truly lost his memory. Thankfully, the doctor said this was only temporary and nothing to worry about, but for her, it still felt like a heavy blow. A long time ago, the first time Hera saw her, he reacted exactly the same way. She thought all that pain had passed, but the wound in his heart had never really healed. Witnessing this, Lula's resolve only grew stronger inside. Once the one-year engagement ends, she will definitely leave. She has to control her feelings to be able to say goodbye to Formula properly. Sure enough, a few days later, Hera gradually regained his memories. After recovering, Hera even forgot that he had lost his memory in the first place. But Lula still kept a worried eye, her sadness so obvious that even Hallie sitting across noticed. Madam, is something bothering you? It is the first time I have seen a bride looking so downright before the wedding. Did you have a fight with Formula? Hallie asked with concern. Lula did not expect Hallie to actually care after all. In the original story, she was not that friendly. Lula thought to herself, there would not be any fights between her and Formula during the year They were just maintaining a business relationship. So she explained her sadness came from her son's situation. Lula smiled and thanked her for caring. Now that the kid has recovered, let us get back to the main topic. She laid out a summary of the future plan, saying, let us start with the most important thing. The Swine family needs a major personal reshuffle. But Swine is very conservative, so there will definitely be resistance. Unlike Hallie's hesitation, Lula was determined this was the only way to secure her position in the family. Look! Here's the alliance chart of the branches centered around Dawson. Hallie took to the document and found it not only real but very detailed, even containing top secret info. Of course. Lula knew all this thanks to knowing the novel's plot. Is there anything you need me to do now? Hallie asked. Lula handed over a file. While investigating, I first found this guy suspicious. Turns out, he is connected to the Xine family. That man is Baron Break, the guy Lula met at the last banquet. Investigations show he is Dawson's right-hand man, but Lula could not recall this detail from the original story. Strangely, Hallie insisted she never saw Break at that party. If Hallie has no new info, Lula will need to keep a close watch on him, since the documents show Dawson trusts Break deeply. But there is no way their connection is without some hidden reason. There must be some secret deal the outsiders do not know about. Right now, it is still unclear what exactly their dealings are. Hallie admitted she does not know how important Break really is. From what I know, he is very polite, well-connected, and often attends social gatherings. Lula was surprised by this reputation, since at the last banquet he was downright rude to her. Even Hallie doubted Lula's claim, thinking maybe she had mistaken the person, but Lula clearly remembered the person wore the Break family crest, and his face matched perfectly with the portrait in the investigation files. From the very first time she saw him, Lula felt an eerie sense of familiarity. So what secret is Count Break hiding? Trusting Lula's judgment, Hallie confidently took on the task of investigating Count Break. She thought once this was over, she could finally leave the city with peace of mind. Just then, a maid approached with a grim expression, making Lula worry and ask what had happened. The maid explained about Gila. He has been locking himself in his room and refusing to eat. Hearing this, Lula decided to personally bring some sweets to visit her son. Since the fox incident, Gila had changed drastically from before. Lula had not planned to get too emotionally involved, since she knew she would have to leave eventually, but clearly, the one who abused Gila was the original owner, so why was she the one feeling the pain of losing her child now? Thinking that, she told herself at least before leaving, she would leave Hyla with some happy memories. Entering the room, she found him lying still on the bed and immediately took out his favorite sweets. But Hyla showed no reaction. Instead, he asked about what happened on the day they went on the picnic. Why had all his memories vanished after that day? Lula recalled the doctor's advice to keep the truth from the boy. Unexpectedly, Hyla sensed something was wrong all on his own. Reluctantly, she just said it was because he was too scared, but Hyla remained suspicious, his mind flashing images of the mother who once scolded him. Yet that image was completely different from the woman before him now. For some reason, he silently accepted the cookie. The next morning, Lula rode in a carriage to the meeting spot, but still arrived just a bit late. The future mother-in-law, Lady Camlin, was already waiting at the door, smiling. She said she would had several dresses made for Lula, and today was to try one on. She pulled out a dress and handed it to Lula. Lula froze immediately. Camlin confidently said, "Yes, this is your wedding dress." Lula had not expected her Fidi to have even prepared this. Their marriage contract was only for 1 year, so logically, she should not be getting such treatment. But in her heart, she could not bring herself to refuse Camlin's kindness. Since before, without a mother around, she always longed for a mother's love. Now Camlin stepped forward, took Lula's hand, and dragged her to try on several more dresses, surprising Lula with how many there were for a mother with only one son. What she longed for most was to buy lots of dresses for her daughter. She boldly said, "I want to treat you like my own daughter." Lula was immediately moved. This kind of love was something she had never experienced before. Just then, a male voice interrupted the warm moment, making the scene feel a bit jealous. "I hope you can think of me that way too, Mom." Camlin frowned, looking at her son. "Why are you crashing the date between your mother and your fiancé? If you are sulking, why not spend a little more time with me instead?" The Duke was not backing down. "But Mom, I do not see you happy when you are with me." Camlin was speechless, then snapped, "If you are sulking, go get your eyes checked." Lula just watched silently as the two bantered back and forth. Soon after, the Duke sat beside her and sighed softly. I searched everywhere for you in your mansion, but could not find you. So I came here. Now hurry up and eat, or I will have to scold you again like Mom did just now. Camelin jumped in. Donna spoil him, if you do. He want to know how to control himself later, but I am really happy you two are getting married. He used to say he would never marry, so I am really curious what changed his mind. But I am glad he found someone he loves for life, especially such a beautiful girl. Hearing those words, Lula felt a pang of guilt inside. Clearly, she would be leaving in a year. Yet right now she was shutting Camelin out. But when she glanced at the person beside her, she caught the Duke's gentle smile before he pulled her into a warm embrace. I promise I will be by your side for life, he whispered with that reassurance. Camelin wanted to drag Lula off to try on more dresses. She turned to her son and said, if you do not have anything to do, go ahead. We still have a lot to take care of. The Duke noticed Lula's hesitation and quickly made an excuse for her. She has been really busy lately. Please allow her to skip this time. You can handle the rest. Hearing that, Lula lowered her head thoughtfully. There really was so much left to sort out. Camelin nodded in understanding, saying if she is busy, there is no need to force it. I will take care of everything for the wedding later. You do not need to worry, just leave it to me. The Duke quickly took Lula's distracted hand and whispered near it. Let us go to a place just for the two of us, where no one will be stepping on our toes. Lula thought he would be taking her home, but to her surprise, the carriage headed in the opposite direction. The Duke smiled. I am taking you somewhere I am sure you will love. Curious? Lula asked. Is it the chocolate shop? Then she remembered a story about a king who loved chocolate so much he built a castle entirely out of it. But he forgot one thing under the hot sun. The castle melted away in the end. The king was buried inside his chocolate palace and died. That is how it went. The king loved chocolate so deeply that even in death, he felt happy. I think I am like him, Lula said softly. Even though I know I will leave in a year, I can't help but want to see you. Lula sighed quietly, and the Duke replied gently. I understand how that king felt. To him, chocolate was the most precious thing. To me, the most precious person is you. Dying in the arms of the one you love alone is happiness. Do you want a real marriage, not just a one-year contract? Those words shook Lula. She realized he truly liked her, but immediately pushed the thought away. To him, she was just someone useful. Seeing Lula silent for so long, the Duke changed the subject. We are here. Let us get off. I am sure you will like it. Inside, the Duke seemed eager to become a proper father. Lula stepped out and saw a high-end salon right in front of her. She thought the Duke had business here, but he just smiled mysteriously. You will see soon. With no other choice, Lula followed him inside to her. It looked like an ordinary salon, but she was sure the Duke had a reason for bringing her here. You have probably already prepared something, have not you? She guessed. Lula asked. Sure enough, a staff member brought out a box neatly packed with exquisite clothes. Clearly, those sizes were not for her. She suddenly realized, could these be for Hera? Unexpectedly, the Duke confirmed immediately. Of course, our son has to attend the wedding too. Lula felt touched. She believed the Duke would definitely be a good guardian one day. Thank you. If Hera finds out, he will be so happy. The Duke shrugged playfully. Well, what can I do? Since my wife's so busy, I have to handle all this. Lula laughed and boldly said she could not wait to try on those outfits. The Duke grabbed onto her words. Then we better get married quickly. Lula smiled but instantly blushed in embarrassment. The Duke reminded her, if the sizes do not fit, let me know. Now let us head somewhere else. He did not forget to tell the staff to send the clothes to Lula's mansion. As she stepped outside, Lula spotted a familiar figure, the male lead she would been wanting to investigate. The Duke followed her gaze, frowned, and his eyes turned cold. Isn't he that the male lead? I met him at the last party. Why have you been staring at him like that? Lula quickly objects. Don't he say things like that? Right then, Break heads off in a different direction. Lula feels she has to follow, so she grabs the Duke's arm tightly. Let us follow for now. I will explain later. The gentle move clearly works on the Duke. He shrugs and smiles. All right. Even though this is my first time tailing someone, I will do my best. So the two quietly tail Break. On the way, the Duke acts like a curious kid, firing off questions until Break walks through a door. The Duke stops and asks seriously, should we keep going? Following him could be really dangerous. Lula thinks it over and feels it would be a waste to give up now after all that effort. Maybe we should circle around. See if we can find any clues. The Duke immediately notices something strange about the building. The lowest floor has no entrance at all. He guesses they might be hiding something important there. Then, he channels his spiritual energy to probe, but finds nothing. Why do you suspect him? The Duke asks, and Lula explains. During the investigation, I suspected he might be secretly dealing with Dudung, but even Harley did not know about this. Hearing this, the Duke falls silent for a moment, then decides, we should head back. Staying too long here risks getting caught. Later, I will send people to investigate this building. Lula agrees with the plan. She realizes she has already taken too much of the Duke's time. It is getting pretty late. Maybe now it is too late to go where I wanted to take you, but that is okay. We have plenty of other cases, the Duke says with a smile, and they both head back together. That night, a shadowy figure in black sneaks into the Duke's mansion. Duke Han, I heard you are about to marry. I am here to congratulate you, but I do not get it. Why would you want to marry her? Don't you know Lula's past? However, after investigating break, they make no progress. Lula returns home feeling disappointed. As soon as she arrives, she sees Hera anxiously calling her over. It turns out the boy has not slept, just waiting for his mom to come back. Remembering his pitiful look when asking about his lost memories and how she avoided visiting him afterward, Lula softens. Mom guesses you have something to say, right? If so, let us go to your bedroom. But Hera shakes his head in panic, hesitates a moment, then says he wants to take Mom to the playroom. That is when Lula remembers she had asked the maids to prepare a room like that. It must be ready by now, so Hera is eager to show it. Sure enough, after agreeing, the boy beams with joy. He opens the door to reveal a room full of toys and books. Clearly, the maids followed her instructions perfectly. Seeing her son's happy face, Lula knows he is very pleased. She feels a pang of regret, wishing she would prepared this for Hera sooner. It is almost bedtime. How about Mom reads you a book? Lula moves to the bookshelf, carefully picks out a book about small animals. Meanwhile, she asks, how have you been feeling lately? Since I fell into the lake, I do not remember anything. If you feel any pain or discomfort, you have to tell me. Okay, Hera nods, but his eyes suddenly look distant. Lula immediately senses something soft and anxiously presses him. The boy thinks it over, then decides to be honest with his mom. Since I saw something in the lake, I have felt strange and often feel like throwing up. Hearing this, Lula's heart trembles with fear. She keeps asking, did you eat something wrong? Or maybe you did not sleep well? Do you have a fever now? What exactly did you see at the lake? Should I call a doctor? Hera quickly reassures her, it only happens sometimes. Please do not worry too much. Besides, the doctor said your memories will slowly come back. Lula did not expect her son to be so understanding. Clearly, she should be the one caring for the child. Yet Hera's acting the opposite and even wants to cling to her mom. That just made her more determined. Before leaving, she has got to help the kids settle down so Hera can live a normal, peaceful life later on. So she suggested, how about we do something more fun than just reading fairy tales tonight? The boy's eyes widened with curiosity. Lula's only real skill was shooting magic rings with her gun. Thinking that, she pulled out her gun and shot a sparkling ring right in front of her son. Hera's eyes lit up at the glowing golden ring. Whoa, it is so beautiful. One day, you will be able to create sparkling stars just like this. Hearing that, hope blossomed inside Hera, eager to unlock his power and create his first ring soon. The next day, while Lula was busy with work, a maid came in holding a letter. Lately, she had been swamped with tasks, desperate to help Hera become the rightful heir, still unsure if the formula had found any clues from that building. Opening the letter the maid brought, Lula was surprised there was no signature on the envelope. Who sent it? Elsewhere, the formula sat pondering Lula's documents, wondering how to handle this situation. Lula unfolded the letter and saw the sender wanted to meet next week. From the letter's tone, it seemed this person had been in regular contact with the original owner. That made her nervous. If she is not the original owner, this secret won't stay hidden for long. But she had to go meet them at least once to find out who they really were. Lula thought about telling the formula first, but by the time she was free, he was already sitting comfortably in the living room. She immediately wondered why the maid did not inform her, but just by his expression, she knew he must be sweet. Talked the maid into keeping it quiet, so Lula did not blame the maid anymore. Seeing Lula sit down, the formula quickly spoke up. I really wanted to see you. Lula was speechless, thinking, if I would known this was going to happen, I would not have written that letter. She asked straight up, did you come here because of news from that building? But he shook his head. I just thought since we are about to marry. I still do not know anything about you. Can you tell me a little about yourself? What do you like? What you hate? Your tastes, I want to know everything. Lula did not expect him to ask that. Could it be he is worried about life after marriage? But the problem was, even she did not really know the original owner's true likes or habits. If it were important, I would be told you by now. The formula raised an eyebrow. Our marriage conditions include one rule. Hira must become the heir. Why, Lula replied firmly. Because I just want Hira to be happy. His cowardly father never cared and was always out chasing women, leaving the kid alone at home. I just want to find him a good dad. The formula quietly looked at Lula, feeling even more touched by her devotion to the boy. But at the same time, he recalled what a close friend once said, that Lula herself killed her husband. That friend had given the formula solid proof, but looking at Lula's face, he just could not believe it. Besides, Hira was not even her biological child. Yet she chose him to be the boy's father. Just that simple statement stirred the formula's heart more than he expected. Why do you think I would be a good father? He asked softly. Lula did not hide it. Because your family is strong enough to protect Hira. Actually, in the original story, the formula was not a good father to him. Hira was just a useful tool. Having never been loved, he eventually became an unhealable tyrant. But from what she has seen now, the formula is way better than she imagined. She believes they will definitely become a happy family someday. This is the first time the alchemist has been praised like this. Nobles always treated him like a monster because of his cold appearance. Lula was the only one who was not scared and even boldly approached him. That is what slowly brainwashed the alchemist with his own feelings. To the point that even though Lula actually killed her husband, he did not mind. Just the thought of living a lifetime with her filled his heart with joy. After chatting for a while, Lula suggested he teach Hira how to use the ring. The alchemist hesitated a bit, explaining he was not really good at teaching others. Hira seemed to know how to use the ring, but still could not create one himself. Lula could not bring herself to reveal the truth that in the novel, Hira only had one ring. Maybe it was a mother's intuition, but she believed Hira had huge potential. Her words made the atmosphere a bit awkward. To break the silence, Lula asked the alchemist to show Hira how it is done. She called Hira into the room in front of his wife. Showing off his power was as easy as pie for the alchemist. He casually raised his hand, instantly summoning countless glowing rings. But just as Hira was excitedly watching, the boy's expression suddenly changed. Lula panicked at her son's unusual reaction. And then, Hira fell ill once again. The boy blamed himself, saying it was all his fault. Sorry. Hearing her son start to blame himself, she quickly stopped him. You promised me you would not say things like that anymore. It is just a little dizzy spell. Nothing that is your fault, neither with me nor with us. Hearing this, Hira gave a faint smile, as if a weight had been lifted from his heart. Later, as the two strolled through the garden, the alchemist noticed the swing inside. Isn't this the one you said you wanted to move last time? Lula nodded. Yes, that is Hira's favorite swing. The alchemist smiled. Then great. If we can move it to our place fast. Even better. Lula hesitated, puzzled. Why, the alchemist bluntly replied. Obviously because I want you to move in with me soon. Lula quickly changed the subject. What about that building Black entered the other day? What is it for? The alchemist sighed softly, a bit dissatisfied. It is just an abandoned building. Officially, it is registered as an ordinary house, but they still have not figured out who really owns it. Someone is clearly hiding something. Lula grew even more suspicious. Sure, there was a secret inside. Maybe I will have to find a way to use Douglas as an excuse to get closer and investigate. Lost in thought, she did not even hear the alchemist call her until he poked her cheek, snapping her back. Just as she was about to say something about Douglas, the alchemist showed jealousy. Don't even think about anyone else. Right now, I am the one right here beside you. Lula blushed, heart pounding, but tried to keep her cool and stay rational. I am curious though, you sent me a letter by carrier pigeon, and I ended up sending you back a love letter. The alchemist tilted his head, teasing. Then I will write you back on some really fancy paper. Didn't I expect you to be a bit romantic? What kind of person am I in your eyes? Lula suddenly recalled the alchemist's image from the original story, a cold, ruthless man who never showed a hint of feeling for anyone. But the man standing next to her now was totally different. She smiled softly, full of meaning. If I think about it, you have always been romantic in front of me. While talking, they reached the swing. The alchemist said, try sitting on it. I will push you. But Lula hesitated. I am a little scared. That is when the alchemist realized he hardly knew anything about her likes or fears. He seriously asked, "Is there anything you want to tell me, like your preferences, habits, or anything I absolutely need to understand about you?" Lula reluctantly begins to open up about her past. When she was little, there was a time she was playing on a swing. Suddenly, her father appeared, grabbed her by the hair, and took her away. Lula bit her lip softly, recalling that memory. But she just could not forget that moment. It was not because she was afraid of the swing. She lied a bit to hide the truth. In the original story, the family's death was not clearly described. So Lula thought making it up like this would not matter. But she did not realize her words planted a seed of doubt in the Duke's heart. He investigated and found out Lula had been sent to an orphanage from birth, which was run by a woman. So then, who exactly was the father Lula just mentioned? Meanwhile, Lula arrives at the meeting place with the letter sender. Entering the restaurant, she sees only one woman with blue hair sitting inside. Lula hesitates and chooses to sit at a different table. Unexpectedly, the blue-haired woman suddenly stands up, smiling brightly as she approaches. "It has been a long time, has not it? Sis, why did not you say hi? You acted like you did not even know me. Didn't we agree not to keep our distance anymore?" Lula is completely confused, not understanding what is going on. Before she can think it through, the blue-haired woman keeps asking questions. "Sis, why have not you been wearing the earrings I gave you lately? You used to wear them all the time not too long ago." Lula immediately remembers those earrings and wonders if Edith really did give them to the original owner. What kind of benefit did those two get from this? Could Edith actually be the one who sent that letter? Just as that thought flashes through her mind, Lula hears Edith chuckle softly. "Have you ever thought that the one who sent that card was actually me?" Watching Edith smile brightly in front of her, Lula still feels a bit suspicious. Why did she ask me here? Is it because she gave me gifts before and now wants me to return the favor? Edith quickly waves her hand, insisting those gifts were given sincerely. Lula asks, "Miss Edith, do you know how many cards you have sent me recently?" Edith nods eagerly. Of course she remembers very well. Exactly 23 times, and gifts 8 times. Seeing Edith's excited face, Lula feels a bit overwhelmed, but since the original owner kept those gifts carefully, maybe that means she really valued Edith. Before Lula could respond, Edith's eyes sparkled even more as she asked, "So you guessed it was me?" Lula replies, "I did not guess. Then why did you give me gifts?" Edith answers, "At first, she just liked her and gave gifts, but now she wants to be hers. You have been seeing Hallie a lot lately, right? It seems like you two even have some kind of deal. Though I am curious, I held back because I wanted to ask you directly." Lula did not expect Edith to know about this, but if Edith really wants to dig for info, it might help a lot. Lula says, "If you want to help me, I will tell you everything." Edith's eyes immediately light up like stars. Just then, a maid brings fresh milk to the table. Lula is even more puzzled. The Emperor still thinks she likes tea, but Edith knows her favorite is milk. Maybe she needs to be more careful with this woman. Leaving the restaurant, Lula's steps grow heavy and reluctant. Ruger has been waiting at the gate for a while. "Next, let me escort the young lady." Just as Lula is about to get into the carriage, she sees Haizi approaching from ahead. After exchanging a few words, Ruger hurriedly says goodbye. "I have urgent business." She will escort the young lady instead. Before leaving, Ruger leans on the window and reminds, "Miss Lula, if you need a guard next time, make sure to find me." While Ruger is still acting cute, Haizi decisively slams the carriage door shut. As the carriage moves, Lula realizes this is not the way home. She asks suspiciously, "Where are we going?" Haizi clearly did not expect Lula to ask that question and quickly answered, "Didn't that Ruger guy say anything to you just now? It was Lady Camille who wanted to see you. Sorry for not giving you a heads up." Hearing this, Lula nodded, realizing that Lady Camille must have a reason for seeking her out. Ruger rushed off to find the squad leader. Haizi explained that he had to go conduct an investigation. Although Haizi did not specify, Lula was sure he had uncovered a new lead. Seeing how invested Haizi was in the investigation, she said softly, "Lion, do not be too upset." Haizi hesitated for a moment, making Lula realize she had been a bit blunt. After all, he is her favorite character from the original story, so she would unconsciously offer comfort. Looking back now, it felt awkward, so Lula quickly changed the subject. "Have you told him about the formula yet? After I marry into the family, could you come and teach my son how to use the ring? Heise has a real talent for this, and I want him to learn more. It will benefit the clan in the long run. I think you would make a great teacher. Plus, you lost a bet to me earlier and owe me a favor, so I am counting on you for this." Heise thought for a moment. then said, "If my master agrees, I have no objections." As soon as Lula arrived at the formulist's residence, Lady Camelum greeted her with a big warm hug. She cheerfully said, "The wedding preparations are almost done. Let us go over a few final details. What do you think of the date we set?" Lula glanced at the list Camelum had prepared, surprised at how soon the wedding was. Then Camelum took out a box. "This is a wedding gift from me to you." Lula hesitated, unsure if she should tell Camelum the marriage was just a contract. But Camelum always gave such precious gifts, making Lula feel awkward at that moment. Camelum urged, "Go ahead. Open it." Lula opened the box and was surprised to find a crystal orb carved with 3 figures inside. Camelum smiled. "See, my ring will protect you both, no matter what dangers may come." Lula did not expect the orb to also contain the lady's ring. Touched, Lula replied, "Thank you so much. I really do not know how to properly express my gratitude." Camelum kindly said, "Just like it. No need to be formal." By evening, Lula said goodbye to Camelum and prepared to leave. But as soon as she got into the carriage, she saw the formula sitting there already. Sensing the situation, Hazet quietly moved to the carriage behind. The formula noticed the gift box in Lula's hands and curiously asked. Lula replied, "It is a wedding gift from your mother." She said, "Placing it in the bedroom can keep us safe." Formula smiled. "With me guarding you in the bedroom, it would be better to put this in the hero room." Lula nodded. "That is actually a great idea. But will we share a room?" The formula confidently said. "Remember, we are contract spouses, and even contract spouses are still married." Seeing Lula blush shyly, the formula grinned even wider, clearly pleased. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Ruger, Hazet, and Rosanna were anything but happy. Their mission today had failed again, and Rosanna was frustrated and complaining. "Why does it always go like this?" Before she could finish, Rosanna and Ruger were already arguing heatedly. Hazet got pulled into the fight too. "Hazet, your deputy squad leader is about to die, and you are just standing there doing nothing," calmly. Hazet replied, "That is between the squad leader and deputy. It is not really my place to interfere." Rosanna snapped, "If it were not for Miss Lula being nearby, we would be dead for sure today." Ruger fully agreed. "Exactly. Mysteriously amazing. How did she manage to turn the master into such a lovesick fool? Next time we meet, I have got to thank her properly." Hearing Lula's name, a smile flickered across Hazet's face, and Ruger quickly teased, "Hey kid, what are you thinking about?" Hazet replied seriously, "I am just thinking about how many times we have failed this mission. Failing again this time really sucks." Rosanna immediately shot back. "Failure is still better than causing such chaos that what we are trying to reclaim ends up completely destroyed." That turned their argument into a full-on brawl with all 3 of them involved. Meanwhile, Lula returned to the Duke's mansion, said goodbye, and headed home. As soon as she walked in, she saw little Hera dressed up, looking absolutely adorable. Seeing her surprise, Hera worriedly asked, "Mom, do not you think it is not pretty?" Lula quickly shook her head. "It suits you perfectly. Do you like this outfit?" Little Hera was clearly pleased. "This is a gift from the Duke, not from you, Mom." Hera was surprised. "Did Dad give it to me?" Lula smiled. "Yes, your dad gave it to you. Next time you see him, remember to say thank you." A few days later, Lula went to Hallie's house, bringing news about Edith. "She might be our new ally. I am meeting her today to sign the contract." Hallie hesitated. Although Edith was well known in social circles, her personal info was almost completely hidden. "Maybe we should meet first and then decide." Lula nodded. "All right, let us go now." Hallie immediately raised her hand, shouting, "Let us do this." Lula was baffled. "What is this now?" Hallie replied cheerfully, "You said you wanted to meet Edith, so I am cheering you on." Lula sighed and stood up. "Let us go together." Hallie admitted she was curious how Edith planned to help her become head of the family. Hallie whispered, "From what I know, the Bayduck family has a good connection with Dawson. I have seen Bayduck secretly meeting him." That made Lula instantly suspicious about Edith's intentions. Could she be trying to extract info from them? Thinking that, Lula took a deep breath. "We have to stay sharp today. Who knows? This might be a den of vipers." With nerves on edge, they arrived at Edith's mansion, where she greeted them warmly as soon as they stepped inside. "Sis, why are you just now getting here? I have been waiting for you forever." Just as Hallie was about to speak, Edith smiled brightly, her voice full of enthusiasm. "Nice to meet you, Miss Hallie. I am Edith." As everyone sat down, Edith could not help but ask Lula right away, "Did you bring the contract?" No one expected Edith to not even glance at it. She just went ahead and signed immediately. "Miss Edith, Are you really agreeing to let Hallie become the family head? Lula asked. Surprised. Yes, but Sis, there is something I am really curious about. You support Hallie as the Duke's wife. If that is true, then I have no reason not to stand with you. Soon she will be the family head, and her opinions will be the family's. Then Edith started speaking like a fanatic. I just like you. That is why I want to help. Lula could not help but ask, why Seth? Edith began to recall. At first, I heard the Viscount had a beautiful wife. I was jealous, so I wrote to you, saying if you ever needed help, just come to me. After the Viscount died, you handled everything perfectly. From then on, I was completely captivated. Your personality changed in exactly the type I admire. Hearing this heartfelt confession, Lula could not help but blush. Luckily, Edith liked her true self after she came to this world. Then Lula wanted Hallie to meet the Duke, so they planned to hold a social party. Later, when Lula invited the Duke, she accidentally learned something else. In 3 weeks, their wedding will take place. Lula was stunned. Like getting hit across the face, only 3 weeks left. Lately, she had been so busy handling Hallie's affairs, she completely forgot about her own wedding. The Duke frowned, sounding a bit pouty. You have been so caught up with Hallie's stuff lately. You totally forgot about our wedding. I am really upset. I never thought you would not care about something this important in this whole world. You are the only one, my bride, who forgets our wedding day. Seeing how things were, Lula quickly tried to explain. Sorry, just like you. I have been really looking forward to this wedding. It is just that I have been so busy lately. I have not had time to share my thoughts. We will have the wedding in 3 weeks. That really will be a lucky day. I did not expect the love formula to be so easy to charm. I am already planning our honeymoon. Let us go to the beach for a getaway. Lula froze when she heard that. After all, this is just a contract marriage. If we make too many good memories, it might be harder to let go. Breaking up would be so painful. So Lula hurriedly told Formula to hold off on that for now. By the way, Lula, do you know what the bride and groom are supposed to do at the wedding in front of everyone? Formula said this as he stepped forward, pulling her into a tight hug and whispering in her ear. I heard all they have to do is kiss. If it is not necessary, maybe it can be skipped. Right? With how things are between us, would not kissing be super awkward? Lula asked shy. Unexpectedly, Formula replied very confidently. It can be skipped. I have heard it is the most important ritual in the wedding not to be left out, but here's a way to ease that awkwardness. Before the wedding, you move into my mansion? Lula was not sure if that would really help with her nerves. But when it came to the banquet, she definitely needed Formula's help. A few days later, Lula and Hera both moved into Formula's mansion. Formula even hired a private tutor for Hera, and preparations for the banquet sped up. Lula was a bit stunned when asked if she was sure Hera could create a spiritual aura. Did she know this because it was in the original story, like she could predict the future? Lula wondered if Formula already knew something. Was that why he was so interested in her? Seeing her expression, Formula laughed and explained, just kidding. No one can really see the future. Then they noticed a letter on the board from Hallie. Lula thought it was a work report, but when she opened it, it was full of complaints about Dawson. To make things worse, Formula was sitting right there, making Lula extremely awkward. That moment, Hera hesitated outside the door. Formula immediately noticed and opened the door to see the small, pitiful boy standing there. Isn't it school time now? Hera, why are you here? Tell me why you did not go to class. Okay, only by telling me can I help you. Hera hesitated before finally speaking up. Whenever the teacher gets close, I get scared because it reminds me of my late father. Hearing this, Lula realized the boy was genuinely frightened. Then we have to get you a different teacher, she said firmly. Formula nodded in agreement. Looks like we need to find Hera a tutor he can trust. Lula thought Formula meant Hyzit, but it turned out to be Ruger. He is really talented, you can trust him, but it does not have to be Ruger. Other skilled knights could work too, Formula added, then asked Hera if he wanted to pick his own teacher. The boy nodded eagerly. So the three of them headed to the training grounds. It was Hera's first time seeing this scene, and he was super curious, his eyes sparkling. Mom, they are so cool. Who do you like the most? Or who do you think is the coolest? Formula asked. Hearing that, the boy turned to his mom and quietly replied, I think you are the coolest and the most beautiful. Then he blushed and immediately hid behind Formula. The knights training all noticed this scene. Ruger saw it too and puffed out his chest proudly. Do I look more handsome up close? Want this handsome guy to be your teacher? But Ruger's silly pose made Hera flat out refuse. Then, the boy's gaze shifted to where Hyzit was sparring with someone else. You like Hyzit? Then I will let Hyzit teach you. Agreed. After some back and forth, Hera ended up becoming Hyzit's student. A few days later, at Hallie's social party, Lula and the formula showed up dressed to impress. When getting off the carriage, Lula noticed the formula had a wound on his hand. She had not heard anything about him getting hurt recently. Seeing her distracted, he casually explained, "Just a training injury." Lula thought that was probably true, so she did not press further. Right now, the most important thing was for Hallie's banquet to go smoothly. On the way, the formula quietly suggested, "Let us hold hands. It will make us look closer." Lula naturally linked arms with him, and as soon as they appeared in the hall, everyone started buzzing. Lula was pleased with the effect. "I will go find Hallie first. You stay here and greet everyone." Didn't expect the formula to be so shy. "I want to come with you too." But Lula flat out refused and hurried off to Hallie. Hallie asks Lula, "Did you notice? Everyone was giving me sharp looks. It was the first time anyone looked at me like that. I almost could not hide the excitement on my face." "You acted it well," Lula replied, then glanced around and mentioned Dawson did not seem unusual. "I will go find Edith then. We just mentioned the lady. I heard she is getting married to the formula soon." "Yeah. The wedding's in 3 weeks. Hope everyone can come and celebrate." Lula smiled and replied, "Everything's going great." Lula checked the time. It was almost time to go back to the formula, but just as she said goodbye to Edith, a man behind called her back. "Hello, madam." He spoke up, but then the other interrupted himself. "That is not right. You can't call her madam yet. She is not married." Before Lula could ask what he meant, the man turned and walked away. She was about to follow when she heard the formula behind her. "What is going on? Why do you look so rushed?" "Nothing. Just saw a guy who is not on the guest list. He left, so I wanted to keep an eye on him." "Got it. I will have Ruger and Rosanna check outside. I want to go with them," Lula eagerly suggested. In the original story, Ruger and Rosanna eventually become a couple. Lula wondered if butting in now might mess up their fate. While thinking, she saw the two standing together ahead. Looks like their journey is still long. The formula asked seriously, "Did you see anyone suspicious?" "A brown-haired teenage boy with freckles." "Pretty ordinary." Ruger pressed for details on his clothes, but Lila only glanced and did not notice much. "Doesn't he really matter? No need to stress too much," she said softly. Not long after, Rosanna came back with a report. "Nothing found." Lula found it strange someone living openly like that could not just vanish. While Lula was still pondering, Dawson entered the hall. His gaze swept over Lula, making the formula's face darken instantly. Clearly annoyed, he looked at you, right? And had the nerve to turn away right after eye contact. The formula clenched his teeth, his glare burning with anger. Seeing this, Lula quickly stepped in. "Please do not be like that. I will talk to Dawson briefly and come right back. Anyway, our goal is to reclaim the mine, so I will be quick and come right back. Don't he just stare at me like that?" Remembering his warning, I watched Lula's back as she walked away, wondering what I should do next. Meanwhile, Lula smoothly started chatting with the people standing near Dawson. Seeing that, Dawson immediately stepped forward. "It has been a long time since I have admired such a great name. I did not expect the lady to be as beautiful as the rumors said." Lula smiled politely and shook his hand. Compared to Harley, Dawson was way better at hiding his emotions. "Mind if I invite you somewhere private to talk?" He lowered his voice. "I was already looking for a chance to meet the lady once. Looks like you had the same idea. Why do not we find a quiet spot and have a deeper conversation?" Dawson smiled, his tone full of hidden intentions. Lula knew he was trying to bribe her, so she replied bluntly, "We do not seem close enough for that. It feels way too forward. I thought you were supposed to be extremely cautious." Dawson's face clearly darkened at that. "Then why are you approaching me? Aren't you torn between me and my sister?" Lula shot back. "You really have no eye for people. I have no intention of giving up the pieces I hold. I was just curious if you plan to surrender this game, but it looks like you have no plans to quit at all." Dawson was not shaken by Lula's words one bit. "Too bad. Things won't go your way. I doubt my sister will achieve her goal at this party either. And madam, you will soon realize just how badly you have messed up your choices." Lula did not expect Dawson to reveal his hand right here. Saying that, Dawson turned and walked away, leaving Lula suspicious about his true plan. She immediately knew she had to warn Harley to stay alert. Both people nearby had overheard the conversation, their faces heavy with concern. After Dawson left, Lula planned to find the Duke but realized no one was around anymore. Just then, she caught sight of the freckled boy as silhouette. Determined to stop Dawson's spy, she decided to chase after him immediately. The garden was like a maze, and before long, Lula got lost. But if she got lost, then so could the boy. She had to catch him before he slipped away. Not long after, Lula heard another noise. Turning around, she saw a hand emerge from the bushes. Then the freckled boy stepped out. He instinctively tried to run, but Lula grabbed his sleeve tight. "Who are you? Really? How do you know about me? Who told you?" And why did they lead me here? Spill it, how did you escape the Night's Watch? The boy shook Lula's hand off roughly and turned to run again. Lula immediately drew her gun and aimed at him. I do not want to hurt you. So just talk straight. Why do you act like you know my true identity? Who ordered you to do this? The boy hesitated, his eyes flashing with inner conflict. Even if you do not know, your life won't change. I am just following orders. Hearing that, Lula realized he was being forced to. Dawson's the one pulling your strings. Looks like he holds something really important over you. You are scared to lose whatever he has got, right? The boy glanced around nervously, then whispered, Dawson said tonight's party is definitely going to be ruined. Must have been given a mission, right? Tonight's party has to succeed, so I will give you a choice. Help me, and I will help you break free from Dawson's control. Right then, the necklace the Duke gave Lula suddenly started glowing. The scared boy suddenly panicked, rushing forward to shove Lula aside, then quickly disappeared into the crowd. Lula could only watch helplessly as he vanished from sight. Just then, the Duke arrived at the scene. I heard Ruger and Rosanna spotted that boy but somehow lost him along the way. Just as Lula was about to say she had met him, the Duke noticed the wound on her arm. His eyes darkened instantly, and he took charge. Ruger went to fetch ointment and bandages. Lula forced a weak smile. It is just a small wound. A good sleep will heal it. This is not important. There are other things to worry about. The Duke cut her off firmly. Nothing matters more to me than your injury. Let us finish bandaging you before we talk about anything else. Saying that, he carefully treated Lula's wound, then sternly warned her, from now on, do not go anywhere dangerous alone. Even the garden is not safe. We have found traces of shadows inside the estate. Rosanna, I suspect the boy you mentioned is a shadow. Otherwise, there is no way he could have escaped the Knight's pursuit. Lula raised her eyebrows, guessing. So Dawson wants to use the shadows to sabotage the party, but the Duke is attending to. How can Dawson be sure the party will fail? Lula grabbed his hand urgently. There is no time left. We have to get to the hall right now. As they rushed, she breathlessly recounted everything she would heard from the scarred boy. Dawson was planning to ruin the party. Suddenly, strange noises echoed ahead. Both felt a bad vibe. Maybe we are too late. No sooner had Lula spoken than a loud explosion shook the hall. Lula instinctively wanted to charge in, but the Duke grabbed her hand just in time, pulling her back. It is too dangerous inside. We do not even know what happened. Lula was nearly desperate, trembling all over, but inside were the guests she would invited. They were still there. Seeing her panic, Lascias hugged her tightly and spoke in a calm, deep voice. It is nothing's going to happen. Then he signaled the knights to move in and assess the situation immediately. The knights led the way inside, with Lula and the Duke right behind for protection. Ahead of them lay someone unconscious but still breathing, currently in a coma. It looked like someone deliberately left this person alive. Ruger stepped forward to check, then seriously said, it is a shadow. This is the latest trace of their activity. This was not in the original story, which shocked Lula. Why is there a new plot twist? Could the Emperor be pulling the strings behind the scenes? Entering the grand banquet hall, they were met with chaos. Rosanna was loudly trying to restore order. We will escort everyone out safely. Please stay calm and follow me. Lula immediately ran inside, searching for Harley. Surely she would hidden somewhere. Is there anywhere here to hide? Suddenly, a thought flashed through her mind. Dawson planned to lure her outside first, then detonate explosives inside the hall to sabotage the party. But knowing his personality, he would not dare take such a huge risk. The more Lula thought, the more certain she was the mastermind had to be the Emperor, the one who could both intoxicate Dawson and was the original villain from the story. Together with the Duke, she pushed open a door and found Harley lying unconscious on the floor. It took a while for Harley to wake. Shaking violently, Lula anxiously asked, what happened here? The Duke paused thoughtfully, then said, try channeling the ring's energy into her body. For an ordinary person, the ring's aura is warm and can help calm her down. With the Duke's help, Lula bypassed using the gun as a medium and directly created the ring, then carefully approached Harley. I did not expect her to be so terrified. Quickly stepping back just like Harat did the last time he saw the ring. Harley's body was clearly resisting the ring, exactly like Harat's reaction. If they both show the same symptoms, then they must share something in common. Lula immediately sat down and gently asked, Harley, I have some questions. What happened right before you passed out? Harley slowly recalled and answered, something suddenly dropped to the ground, and I was about to pick it up. Lula leaned in, thinking this situation was just like when Harat was by the lake, mysteriously drawn in and then losing consciousness. It seems they really share the same symptoms. And whoever's behind this is definitely no ordinary force. Seeing Harley's reaction to the ring, Gongtu made a few guesses. What triggers her resistance is not just any ring, it is your ring. You noticed Harley's reaction earlier, right? It is just like Hirat's. Both of them reacted to the very first ring they encountered, although we are only speculating now. It is very likely caused by the shadow. Normally, people would not resist the ring. They would feel positive emotions from it. But if there is a negative reaction, it probably means they have come into contact with something opposed to the ring and got poisoned, Lula asked nervously. Then why did Hirat get poisoned at the bottom of the lake? She immediately remembered the spy who was hiding in Gongtu's ranks. Maybe he left the shadow down by the lake, even though Hirat will be uncomfortable. Should we confirm this one more time? Let us see if Hirat really reacts to your ring or not, Lula asked cautiously. Gongtu firmly shook his head. That would make Hirat vomit again like last time. I do not want to see you and your son suffer like that. We need to find another way to confirm this. Lula was surprised that Gongtu always thought so much about Hirat, right? Hirat is our son after all. That sentence deeply moved Lula. Exactly. He is our son, really. Thank you. Gongtu frowned slightly, then spoke quietly. Next time, do not say such distant thank yous. I would rather you show it through your actions than words. Just as the mood between them grew awkward, a female voice suddenly cut in. Excuse me, am I now a 5,000-watt light bulb, or what? Both looked up. Lula blushed and quickly apologized. Anyway, today's party is over. The rest will have to be handled by Hallie and Edith. Hallie seemed stunned, unsure what to do, so Lula reminded her. Go apologize sincerely to the nobles who were invited today. Don't forget. You are the one who will become the head of the family, and you are the one I trust the most. Hearing this, Hallie immediately regained her confidence, her eyes shining bright. We should also go back and check on Hirat. Lula's mind was a mess at that moment. Everything lately has been complicated and tangled, making it hard for her to think straight. Suddenly, Hallie called out sharply, Did you meet the Baron? Dark! Today, Lula suddenly remembered she would overlooked an important detail. Dark never greeted Hallie, the host of the party. That definitely means he is involved in the recent chaos. We must investigate him thoroughly later. But for now, Lula still wanted Gongtu to help find the freckled boy. However, Gongtu showed no reaction until Lula shouted. Then he suddenly snapped awake. Outside, he immediately ordered the knights, at all costs, find that boy as quickly as possible. Maybe things will become a lot simpler